Hey guys, I want to talk to you guys about multiplying mixed numbers. So let's talk about what a mixed number looks like. So a mixed number is just going to be a fraction and a whole number together. So in all these examples, I have a whole number right next to a fraction. And so that's all a mixed number is, just a whole number and a fraction right next door to each other. So let's start talking about how you can multiply two of these numbers together. So there's actually a couple different methods you could use. So let's say we got 3.5 and we want to multiply it by 1 1/3. Well, one thing that you can do is you can convert or change both mixed numbers into improper fractions. Once you have improper fractions, then you can multiply the numerators by the numerators and the denominators by the denominators, just like we've been doing when we multiply fractions. So to turn 3.5 into an improper fraction, first thing I'm going to notice is I have 3 wholes. So I'm going to rewrite 3 wholes as fractions, but I'm going to use this 2 here as the denominator. And the reason is it's going to make adding my 3 wholes to 1/2 much easier. So 3 wholes as fractions over 2, it's going to look like 2 over 2 plus 2 over 2 plus 2 over 2. Each 2 over 2 represents a whole, and we have 3 of them, so it equals 3. So now that I have my 3 wholes, I'm going to add the 1/2 to the 3 wholes. And so altogether, I have 7 over 2, or 7/2. So I've turned 3.5 into an improper fraction, 7 over 2. So I'm going to use a similar process to change or convert 1 1/3 into an improper fraction. So I notice I have 1 whole in my 1 1/3. And my denominator that goes along with that mixed number is a 3. So I'm going to write my whole as 3 over 3. And then I'm going to add my 1/3 to go along with it. And so 3/3 plus 1/3 gives me 4/3. Now I have a fraction by a fraction, and I know how to solve this. So I'm going to multiply the numerator 7 and 4 together. That's going to give me 28. And I'm going to multiply my denominators together, 2 and 3, and that's going to give me 6. So the product of 3.5 times 1 1/3 is 28 over 6. However, many times you'll be asked to write your product as a mixed number. And so to do that, I'm going to divide my numerator 28 by my denominator 6. 6 goes into 28 4 times, so that will be the whole number of our mixed number product. 4 times 6 gives me 24, and my remainder is 4. My remainder becomes the numerator of my mixed number, and the divisor 6 becomes my denominator of my mixed number. And so another way of expressing 28 sixths is 4 and 4/6. And some of you may know that I can simplify 4 and 4/6 even further as 4 and 2/3. So 1 1/2 times 1 1/3 can be expressed as its product can be expressed as either 28/6, 4 4/6, or 4 2/3. Now, there's another way that you can multiply two mixed numbers together. And this way is very similar to the way that some of us prefer to multiply whole numbers together. And that's using an array. So I can break up 3 1/2 into 3 plus 1/2. And I can break up 1 1/3 into 1 plus 1/2. So now what I'm left with is 4 smaller multiplication problems that will give me 4 smaller products that I can then add up together to get the total product of 3 1/2 times 1 1/3. So in this first box here, we're going to multiply the whole numbers 1 and 3. And that, of course, gives us the product 3. And in the box to the right, I have 1 times 1/2. And that's going to give me 1/2. Because anything times 1 is just going to get you that other factor. Down below the 3 times 1 box, I have 1/3 times 3. And I'm going to work that out off to the side here. So I have 1/3 times the whole number 3. And I'm going to put a 1 as the denominator of 3. And now I can multiply 1 times 3, which is 3. And 3 times 1, which is 3. And so the product of 1/3 times 3 is 3/3. Well, we know that 3/3 is equal to 1 whole. And in my last box here, I need to multiply 1/3 by 1/2. And I'll work that problem out to the side over here. So we have 1/3 times 1/2. That's going to give me 1/6. Not too bad. But I'm not finished quite yet. So what I'm going to need to do is add each of the partial products in my array model. I want to try to give myself some room here by erasing some of our past work, but I'm not doing a very good job. So we'll just move the screen down a little bit here. So I have to add 3 and 1 together, which gives me 4. And I have to add 1/2 and 6 together. Now, just like any other time when we add or subtract fractions that have different denominators, I'm going to need to use a common denominator. And a good common denominator for 2 and 6 will be 6. I like that because it's the least common denominator, and I don't have to change 1/6. 1/6 will just stay 1/6. Now, 1/2, because I have to multiply this 2 by 3 to get to 6, I have to multiply my 1 by 3. And so 1/2 as a fraction over 6 is 3/6. And so I'm going to add my 3/6 and my 1/6, and I'm going to get 4/6. And then I'm simply going to make my mixed number by putting my 4 and my 4/6 together, and lo and behold, the product for 3 1/2 times 1/3 is 4 and 4/6. And this should look familiar because that's the same product we got when we multiplied 3 1/2 by 1/3 over here using improper fractions. So no matter which way you choose, you can still get the correct answer. It's really just a matter of preference. Some of you guys might find multiplying using an array to be easier. Some of you guys might find multiplying two mixed numbers using improper fractions to be more suited to your taste. So it's really up to you how you decide to solve a mixed number times a mixed number problem. Now let's take a look. We'll work on one last problem here. What happens if you have a problem like this? So let's say you have a whole number 4 and you want to multiply that 4 by a mixed number. Well, if we're going to choose the method where we're turning mixed numbers into improper fractions, the 4 is just going to stay a 4. Okay, so the 4 will just stay a 4, and because we're eventually going to multiply it by another fraction, you can go ahead and put a 1 in the denominator's place. And then let's focus our attention on turning this 4 and 1/3 into an improper fraction. So I have 4 wholes, and the denominator with this mixed number is 3. So I'm going to express 3 wholes as 4 3/3s added together, or 4 3/3 added together. And then I'm going to add on that 1/3. And so that's going to give me a total of 13 thirds. And so what I'm going to do in this problem is I'm going to multiply my 4 wholes by 13 thirds. So 14 times 13, that's the same thing as 4 times 10, which is 40, plus 4 times 3, which is 12. So 40 and 12 gives us 52. And then we have 1 times 3 gives us 3. And we could leave our answer as an improper fraction, 52/3. But if we wanted to convert it into a mixed number, we could divide the numerator by the denominator. 3 goes in 5 once. Bring our 2 down. Now we're seeing how many times 3 goes into 22. That would be 7. And the remainder is 1, which becomes the numerator of our fraction, and the divisor 3 becomes the denominator. And so as a mixed number, 4 times 4 and 1/3 would be 17 and 1/3. Now let's take a look at using an array for this problem. So your array is going to look a little different. So instead of having 4 boxes, I'm only going to have 2. And I'm going to put my whole number 4 here. And then I'm going to break up my 4/3 into 4 plus 1/3. So in this box, I'm going to have 4 times 4, which gives us 16. In the bottom box, I'm going to have 1/3 times 4. And I'll work that off to the side here. I'm going to put a 1 under my whole number. Multiply it by 1/3. It's going to give me 4 thirds. Now, I'm going to do something before I put my partial product in the box. I'm actually going to convert this 4 thirds into a mixed number. So I'm going to divide 4 by 3. 3 goes in the 4 once, so that's the whole number of my mixed number. My remainder is 1, which becomes the numerator of my fraction, or mixed number. And then this 3 as the divisor is my denominator. So 1/3 times 4 gives me 1. and 1/3. So now I can add 16 and 1 1/3. And so 1/3 plus, there's no fraction with the 16, gives us 1/3. And then the 16 plus 1 gives us 17. And so we see that multiplying 4 by 4 and 1/3 using the array model also gives us 7 and 1/3, or 17 and 1/3. So whether you use improper fractions or whether you use an array for your multiplying, doesn't matter. Just use whichever strategy works best for you. And good luck. Let me know if you guys have any questions on your mixed number multiplying.